request for the bridge over Clackers Brook between Primrose Drive and Westbury View, for that to be resurfaced. This has been completed, so thank you, because that should vastly improve conditions underfoot for this winter. There is an LHVIG request on your agenda for tonight, also for Clackers Brook crossing between Union Street and King George V playing fields. The LHVIG meeting next week, I believe, will be the last chance to get that scheme on the substantive scheme list for next year. I won't actually be at the meeting next week, so if you decide to push that forward, the Melksham Town Council rep needs to convince other members and the LHVIG chair if you want that proposal to go forward for completion next year. But with your permission, I'll speak to that later on if I may. Finally, I've been calling for a weight limit on Snowbury Lane when the Melksham East Relief Road extension is opened. This will have to go through due process, but residents have asked me about setting up a lorry watch scheme. This may seem premature, but the scheme could be set up with volunteers initially, monitoring the high street, the weight restriction there, so they could be established and ready to go if a weight limit is subsequently applied to Snowbury Lane. To take this scheme forward, the Town Council would need to elect an officer as a coordinator for the scheme. So if you do feel able to do so, perhaps this could be put on as an agenda item for next full Town Council meeting, so you can discuss if you wish to take that idea forward that's being requested by some local residents. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to, sorry, anybody else?
Just briefly, Chair. Mark Harris, Melksham Parish Council Planning Committee. We discussed the removal of condition 28 last week and voted to strongly object. And I'm just here to listen to what you have to say about it, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All good, thank you very much.
That's true. For Facebook.
Yep, so in front of me. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, which is to approve the minutes of the Economic Development and Planning Committee meeting held on the 8th of October.
It's not streaming on Facebook.
What you got this continue that?
So you have to share it from another account to that account. If it's actually staff or something doing it.
My name's not on it, Pat. Right, I can't propose it then.
Would somebody else like to propose? Thank you, Andrew, and a seconder.
This is not streaming, I think.
Okay, Hayley's doing now, Joe, but I need to continue the meeting as well to approve these minutes at the moment. That's okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much, Gary.
Yeah, carry on. It's full live stream, so I'll be done with it.
Yeah, Joe, apparently it is, so I can't.
I think the council made a motion that they live stream their meeting.
On here it's saying live stream, Joe. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a problem.
Okay, so moving on to the next agenda item, which is a plan considerations. So we'd ask members to note that when responding to planning applications, consideration of these should be given to the Melksham Joint Neighbourhood Plan, the Wiltshire Core Strategy and the National Planning Policy Framework. And if we move on to the applications, we have the first one, which is PL 2024-08345, and this is proposed works of trees and conservation area on 50 King Street. So 218 Neylandy tree hedges works are to remove the trees. T2 apple tree works are to prune the tree and reduce the height. T3 wild cherry works are to prune the tree, remove lower branches and reduce the height of the tree. Do I have any comments, please?
Do we have the right agenda or do we have last time?
Go back, hang on a second, I may have, because I was trying to help Tracy have a look at.
We've also skipped item 5.
Maybe it's onto the wrong meeting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think I've probably gone onto the wrong one because trying to have a look at the Facebook at the same time as doing this. Yeah, well, get back into calendar. So 5.1. Economic development and planning budget, so budget 24-25, to note the budget spent to date and available spent. Okay.
Just a comment really that CCTV, as we know, is significantly over the budgeted spend for the current year. I'm just wondering whether this is the entire cost of it, as I understand it's now live and functioning, or whether there's any sort of last minute bills to come in.
Okay, so yes, it's live and it's working and it's been completed. As far as I am aware, this is the bill to date and there's no more expected in. However, the town clerk will confirm that, and an explanation regarding any spend has come in from the provider on a breakdown of that and the breakdown of any equipment that may have been used previously. I know council was asking about that and that's been provided to the clerk.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You need to share it to the Melton Town Council page for the team.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to look at through. Fortunately, with Andrew not being here, we're stuck. Ah, that's why it's on TC. Down. Share. No. Share to a page. No, that's problem. Yes, it is a page. But we need to. Jack, do you know where the volume is on that? Did I do it last time?
You. Press that speaker button on the end. Yeah, there you go.
So was there anything else on? Yeah, let's just leave that, let's just go with this for a second. Right, anything else on the budget year to date?
Can I ask a question? So we are what, 221% budget now. I know a portion of that, significant portion of that seems to be the town floor displays. I'm just trying to get my head around that though, because budget's 6,000, we spent 5,761. But it says funds available in brackets 4,797. And we've got committed expenditure. So overall, we're 179%. Just wonder where those funds available come from and why have we got 179%? We're currently under the budget. I'm just trying to work this through.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle to figure this out tonight. Can we ask again if you have any queries on budget things that are sent in prior to the meeting to give whoever is committee clerk of the meeting a chance to have answers?
Oh,
Because
right,
that's
okay, so we're not
possibly
taking
what we need to
questions on the
hear
budget, okay.
or somebody, so, yeah, respectfully, if we can bring that to the meeting, that would be really appreciated.
I have got some explanations that I can give. So where you see 1030 that's showing at the moment that there is no income coming in, the invoice to the Makers Market £330 is being submitted, so that will show on your next quarter accounts. In terms of income on the hanging baskets at 1089, there is a conversation around businesses that had hanging baskets about reclaiming some of the costs that they had committed to, so that's underway as well. In terms of the floor displays, I will absolutely get some more explanation of that tomorrow. CCTV, I've answered, and that's the information that I've got to say.
Anybody else any questions? No? Okay, if I can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5.2, budget 2025 to 2026. 6 to start discussions on economic development and planning budget forthcoming.
Yeah, I think I've included this as a following on from my position as chair of the finance committee, really just to try and get this group of councillors to start thinking and giving some input to the RFO and to the finance committee about what expenditure this committee anticipates being lined up for next financial year.
That being the case, under our budget, it's obviously CCTV. Now, the CCTV, as a committee, that doesn't come under our control, does it? Because that's been done by the town council, the full council. So it strikes me that with the stuff that should come under the economic development budget, it should be stuff that falls within the sort of the purview of this committee, and CCTV doesn't. That falls under full council. So I think I prefer to see things like that going under the full council budget or an appropriate budget, but not being assigned to this group.
Yes, noted. Thank you. I'm sure that happens.
Makes sense. Well, I think maybe it's one we need to sit down actually with this year's budget and the lines that sat in what has been allocated to this committee under this year's budget. And look at it in depth in terms of actually, as Alfred said, there may be things in there that actually don't stick with them under this umbrella, move things to appropriate places and then have. So I would suggest maybe that's something we come back with. You know, we meet very frequently compared to any other committee, so it's something that can easily be brought back to.
Yes, I was just going to come in there and say that one of the things on previous year's budgets that I've been particularly encouraging the councillors and the strategy and vision to actually look forward and know actually what we're proposing expenditure for in next year's budget. And I've printed out and has been looking through the strategy and vision that we put together in May of this year. No specifics for this evening because we're starting discussion. But just to sort of record that, hey, I'm delighted that there is something there to be done through and looked at. And so encouraging those councillors who are campaigning to be on the next council to have a good look at this too, because we are headed for next May. We are setting a budget here from April 25 to March 26, which will be for a new council. I think we need to be, those of us who are not campaigning need to be considerate of those people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Cook?
Yeah, can I suggest as well, you mentioned about the discussing this at a future meeting, and as just indicated that town development on this is actually extremely important, particularly what we've got going down in the bottom of town, and the open closing and what we can, what influence this committee could have for that. But put set aside some time at either the next meeting or the meeting after, but soon, that says, right, the meeting, whatever it is, we add another session at the end of it to just discuss items on the budget. Because I know what does happen, other things get involved in it, and if it's not on the agenda,
That's why I suggested it comes on the agenda for a future meeting.
okay.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Anybody else coming on that?
Could I make a suggestion
Yeah.
regarding that? Just thinking about the timescales of obviously what councils are wanting to do and having input, and I know the RFO is currently working on the draft budget that will be presented at council in December. It may be worth, if you've got any suggestions around it, going through the chair, and maybe the chair has that conversation with the RFO, so at least the draft budget can be a proactive meeting, and maybe he can work in advance of that meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you. Okay, now moving on to item 6. So members to note that when responding to planning applications, consideration should be given to the Melksham Joint Neighbourhood Plan, which are core strategy and the National Planning Policy Framework. So to comment on the following applications, so 7.1, which is application 01069, for 59 King Street, removal of marine plywood pathway arch and proposed replacement side passage door. Councillor.
Oh, sorry. I'm just wondering, it said, I'm pretty sure it's in the proposals that the person making the door is the actual homeowner. I'm quite curious because didn't see anything in there that said whether or not they were actually a carpenter. So if they are going to make the door from a square one into an archway, I would have thought that if they could get some, if they're not a carpenter, can they actually get them a proper professional?
Well, we don't know, do we? We're not a place to answer. Councillor.
My interpretation of it was that they referred to the company that they were planning to get the oak timber from, and looking to use black ironmongery to match the traditional style.
Sounds very professional to me.
It
It looks
actually
like
said on
they're,
the thing that it was the homeowner that would be making it.
Yeah, but we don't know the owner's skills may well be, it's not for us to judge what some of these.
I'm just thinking if it's a listed building, it should be done professionally.
I'm not sure we'll look at that. Okay, I'm sure they're listening. Councillor Hudson, Councillor Orford.
2 points on this. Firstly, just for the commission note before they vote, that I believe that 7.1 and 7.3 are on the same building, on a listed building, and then permission on standard planning permission.
Separate, it's two different properties. 7.1 is 59 and 7.3 is 50. That's the time.
My apologies. And as regards listed buildings, from personal experience, the listed building officers at Wiltshire Council have traditionally been very good at enforcing and making sure that things are enforced to a good standard.
Councillor Orford?
Yeah, just referring back to that, the door. I mean, there is a document in it regarding the proposed joinery details, the door itself, the timber that's going to be used, and the colour. I think it's very sensible, to be honest. I think it'll look significantly better than it currently does. I don't think they need to pay. They're competent. I don't think they need to pay a professional 1,500 quid to make it for them. But it's whatever, and that's up to the homeowner.
Yeah.
I propose.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. All in favour? Thank you. Okay, so 7.2. I've got Jameson. Planning application 08989, and this is the removal stroke variations of conditions. So this is Law Home stroke David Wilson Homes, Basil Drive, Melksham. Removal of condition 28 relating to application 10461. That's outline applications up to 450 dwellings with associated access and engineering operations, land for extension of medical facilities or community facilities, and extension to Eastern Relief Road from Pine Road to Spa stroke Snowbury Lane. We've obviously had some input. Thank you to Mark and to Mike. I'll just pick off by I have a statement to read on behalf of Councillor Jenny Westbrook. So she says, "Dear committee members, I regret I'm unable to attend this meeting, but I wish to formally register my concerns regarding item 7.2, planning application 08989. I am deeply concerned that Wiltshire Council's response to a developer's failure to adhere to the planning regulations has been to propose the removal of these regulations altogether, rather than enforcing them. This decision raises serious questions about the Conservative Cabinet's leadership. To me, it shows the council is working in alignment with the developer's interests at the expense of community welfare. This situation highlights a disturbing trend. Wiltshire Council seems more inclined to prioritise convenience over responsibility, choosing the path of least resistance rather than upholding what is right. The removal of this regulatory condition not only disregards established community safeguards, but also places the council's interest above those the residents is meant to serve. I urge the committee to consider these points closely and advocate for a course of action that means Wiltshire Council holds developers accountable to the community. Sincerely, Councillor Jenny Westbrook, Melksham Town Councillor." I know councillor Stokes, you have one as well.
Yeah, I echo that, and I appreciate councillor, thank you for coming and talking about it, because I fully agree with him about the objective to having it removed. I think the developers have not upheld their side of the contract by allowing it to be moved. Wiltshire Council taking their responsibility to hold the developers to account. I think if Wiltshire Council actually had been holding them to account for non-compliance, that maybe the deadlines that they've missed over several times now might not have happened, and the developers wouldn't be dragging their feet along about this. At the end of the day, I think Malcolm has been let down, and we actually need to now make a statement to developers saying you can't just do what you want when you want. There are actual implications to if you are non-compliant with the contract, that the whole point of these rules, which is developers need to do these things in order to get the house to be built.
Thank you. Councillor Cook?
Yeah, I echo what everyone said, really. I don't want to say too much. Ultimately, needs to be called in. Developers need to be held to account, and Wiltshire Council needs to stand up for its the public, and not stand what seems to be alongside developers.
Anybody else? Councillor Orford?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, do we know how many houses are currently occupied on site? Is it all of them now? How far behind?
I say a figure of 350 somewhere.
The proposal, the condition requires that they're looking to remove is the necessity to have 350 road open for 350 homes occupied. Do we know how many are currently occupied?
I believe more so from when I've been around the area and spoken to residents. I
Okay.
believe that actually nearly all occupied now. I think that's
Okay.
about 400 houses.
450 is the total, but
Yeah.
so we don't know exactly. We just think that there is more than 300. That's whatever, I suppose. My understanding on this roundabout is it has been dragging on for some time. I know we've looked at several updates. The roundabout itself wasn't completed, was it? Because we know we had issues with BT, who took about a year long or something, didn't they, before they eventually put their cables in, and that delayed the whole project. Obviously, it's really frustrating because we'd like to see the road open. However, as I understand it, the road is subject at the moment to the it's the conditions, wasn't it? Sorry, I'm just going to back into my documents. Yeah, as far as I was aware, officers are currently working through the traffic order process and doing essential safety checks. So that being the case, the road will be opened as soon as that's complete. And I don't really see the problem with the developers going ahead and putting filling the rest of the houses in the removal of this condition. I don't know why.
Sorry to ask, do you know
Yeah, so-
how long that might actually take? Is that something that's normally just a couple of weeks, or can it take months to do?
I don't know exactly. It's not my area of expertise, but the traffic regulation order has been submitted, the consultation's been done, so they're carrying out essential safety checks. My understanding is it would be a matter of weeks, but I mean it could be longer than that. I don't know exactly, but either way, it seems that the opening of the road at this point, whilst it's dragged on for a very long time for a whole range of reasons, and we know that it was used as a compound by the developers, and we know that the development itself slowed down as a response to market conditions as they sort of slowed things down because of the challenge for selling houses as interest rates were quite high. That's moving a bit faster now, so obviously they're progressing things faster, and I'm not sort of making apologies for them at all, but if it's in the process, the road is in the process of being of the actual TRA being completed, it seems to me that the road opening to a certain extent, in fact completely, is outside the developer's hands. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we've got homes there. I'd rather see people living than them sat empty, because people need homes, and we've got a lot of residents who desperately try and get a home. So, for me, like I say, I mean, you can access it at the moment. It's running through the motions. I mean, I know that doesn't seem to be the popular view, but I'd rather not see homes empty, waiting for a road to open, when the road opening is not necessary for the homes to be occupied.
Okay, councillor Orford, councillor Griffiths.
I think we'll recall that a couple of months ago, the subject of the road and the proposed speed limit on it was considered by this committee. Representations were made to Wiltshire Council. I'm not aware whether any final decision has been reached on that, but perhaps, given that we're not aware at the moment of how many houses have been occupied, perhaps the developer should be required to wait until the road is opened and fully adopted by Wiltshire Council as a highway before they exceed 350, which, if, as Councillor Alford says, may not take too much longer, there may not in practice be any great difficulty. But I agree wholeheartedly with the sentiments already expressed that the developers, not these necessarily just these, but in general, need to be held to account for the agreements that they enter into at the outset of the development.
Anything else from anybody else? Councillor Rose?
Can I just come in there? I mean, I'm agreeing that the developers need to stick to the guidelines and the various things they're given there. It strikes me, from what I've been reading up and seeing today, that that road is likely to be open relatively soon now. I'm going to guess weeks rather than months here. And we can end up calling in a request here on the basis that the developers have been, we are concerned that the developers have gone against the rules and various things like that there. But hey, this whole thing will be over and forgotten by Christmas. And do we really want to put a lot of effort into doing that and sorting that through? I don't know the answer to that. It's just a question.
We're not in risk, though, that, and my concern is not just this particular development, but you are potentially setting a precedent as soon as we kind of go, you know what, we'll just roll over on this one, that we as Melksham Town Council then set precedent for future happenings like this. That's my big concern. I get what you're saying, and it could be quick. It could be a very long time. Councillor Stoke, I'll come back to Councillor Orford.
I get the sentiment of, if it's only going to be a couple of weeks. The problem is that, the residents have been told time and time again, it's going to be open in a couple of weeks, it's only going to be another month, it's only going to be this, and it hasn't happened. And each time that deadline has been passed, and it's the residents that are paying for it. This is in the contracts. At the end of the day, developers knew it was there when, they decided to build the houses, there for a reason. As you said, Councillor Raby, we don't want to set a precedence for other developers. We need to make a stand. Wiltshire Council actually need to get the message across. This is not allowed. We've actually got to stand up against them.
Councillor Orford?
I was just going to follow up on the other point of the TRO. The TRO, of course, has been advertised for a 40. If it was to be refused in favour of a 30, and I know a few people here are quite keen on a 30, then that would mean that the road opening would be delayed significantly as you then go back out to consultation for a TRO for a 30. So we've been in a situation where, on one hand, we're saying you're not allowed to have any more homes occupied and you have to have a number of empty homes because we're very cross with you. On the other hand, saying, by the way, that road that we really want you to open, we don't want you to open it just yet because we're not happy with the speed limit and we want to delay it a bit further. So I think, it's a rubbish situation without a doubt. I mean, if the road was open, it'd make life easier for everybody using that route, including the residents of Snowbury Lane, who've got to put up with a lot of traffic going past their house. And as we've all seen, if you go down there at the wrong time on the wrong day, you end up in traffic jam trying to get onto that Spa Road junction. You can be there for 20 minutes. Everyone's turning around frantically, driving back up Sandridge Road to cut back through town to go some other way. So it is a nightmare. But I'm not sure that I can't see how this condition changes any of that. It's not going to make it's not going to speed anything up, and it's not going to get people into homes that are desperately needing homes. And if we've got houses sitting there completed, waiting to be occupied, and we're saying that they should be sitting empty whilst we wait for an announcement on the road, we end up just delaying people getting into homes. And
Councillor Cook, I'll come to you in a second, but I just want to actually potentially suspend standing orders because the question over the occupancy of the houses and how many are empty. Do you, can I propose to suspend standing orders? Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sankey?
Thank you. I'm not aware of any homes on that development outstanding to be built or developed. I'm not aware of any of those homes in that development currently standing empty. The trigger point has passed. 350 homes have been exceeded. What will happen if this planning condition is removed? It will remove from the public record the fact that there's been a non-compliance with a planning condition. And bear in mind that planning condition was put in place in the interest of highway safety on the recommendation of the Wiltshire Council highways officers. So that, are we saying that that highways officer was incorrect to apply that planning condition? As I said, if this is removed, it will remove from the public record the fact there has been a non-compliance. It will remove from public record the fact that Wiltshire Council have not taken enforcement action over that non-compliance. That is why I think this is a dangerous precedent, because it just, and I will use the word again, whitewashed over the fact that this is taking place. And that is why I feel strongly that this application should be refused.
Thank you. Joe?
Just think it might be useful for the council to note that a recent FOI that we did at the Melton News showed that the council, we asked, can the council confirm how many section 106 breaches the council has found on developments of over 50 or more houses in the last 5 years in the SN12 area? It was 0. We asked for what enforcement action the council had taken in the last 5 years against any developments of 50 or more houses where breaches of section 106 have occurred in SN12 postcodes and no enforcement action has been taken at all in 5 years.
Thank you. Can I reinstate standing orders? And thank you. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, first, thank you for that information. Don't think I'm going to change what I was going to say. Situation will never suit everyone, but ultimately the developers need to be held accountable and not, in theory, try it on every time something's not going their way or whatever. Houses are I'm from that side. I visit that side. And they said 99% full. They're just trying to delay things, and we cannot set a precedent like this. Sets the wrong signal. That final comment from Joe and Melksham News about what Wiltshire Council is, how Wiltshire Council helps us and the parish council actually preserve the conditions. Just they don't. We are on an uphill battle facing with a county council that is not helping us one iota to get these conditions done on time, on place. In pretty much every development there's been any issue with.
Thank you. So I think we discussed this in quite some depth. Do I have any proposals from the floor?
We call it in. We agree with our parish council.
We object to.
Object, yeah.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Stokes. All in favour? Thank you.
I was going to ask a question before I voted
Okay.
on that motion.
Did I
If the before the planning committee meet, presumably will there still be a call-in required?
I don't know the answer. No.
I suppose it's a question for councillor Sankey.
Sorry, say that again, Phil, please.
If the road is open before the next planning committee would discuss this, are you still going to call it in?
I have called it in.
Yeah, but if the road is open before the planning committee,
That the opening of the road now is pretty much irrelevant. The issue before is the fact that there's been a non-compliance with a planning condition. Doesn't matter if the road opens tomorrow or whether it opens in 3 weeks, that non-compliance is still there and arguably needs to be dealt with. not whitewashed and it's famous from the public record.
Councillor Rivers?
So according to these papers, the response is required by the 12th of November. So presumably that, or shortly afterwards, is the deadline for a decision to be reached on this application to Wiltshire Council. As I understand it, whether or not to take enforcement action is a matter for the Wiltshire Council officers and not for the Wiltshire Council Committee.
Yeah, but
So-
planning is,
So if the Wiltshire Council Planning Committee that is dealing with this doesn't meet until after this 12th of November deadline, it's still open to Wiltshire Council enforcement officers to take action before that committee meeting.
no, the point I'm making is if the committee meet after the road is opened. Because there'll be a delay, won't there, between the planning decision on this application, the committee meeting, because the officers have got to write a report, they've got to make a recommendation. Then that would go forward, Mike objects, then it goes to planning, but that requires a report and a date to be set, so it may not be heard at a planning committee until January.
But
But if the road's already open, it just seems that I don't know, I wonder if actually we've got an issue with the enforcement of the condition, whether
That's exactly what-
planning committee.
That's what we just said. Everybody knows.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but what I'm saying though is the planning process through a planning committee the right place to object to that? I don't know. Not been an issue I've come across. before.
Well, no, I think it's an issue probably quite new to all of us, but I mean, my concern is I will go back to what I said, is that do you fear that we are in danger? As soon as anything, you start setting precedents, be that at business level, town council level, county council level, you know, this stuff gets dragged up all the time, it's precedent set. I think we need to stand firm on this and agree with our, support our motion without parish council in objecting to this continued turning a blind eye to what developers are doing. Let me just briefly spend something on some marks coming, but we do need to go to the vote. So, Professor Spen, thank you. Charlie, all in favour? Thank you. Mark?
Just information for you, really. The next Western Area Planning Committee is on the 6th of November. The closing date for this is the 12th. And the next Strategic Planning Committee, which I don't know if that's relevant or not, is the 13th. So it looks as though the planning committee that would be discussing this is before the closing date for this application.
So they won't discuss this in November. They won't be in a position to discuss
The
it.
next will not be for a month or 6 weeks after that.
Yeah, after Christmas, I'd have thought.
Reinstate standing orders. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. If we can go back to the vote, please. So, Councillor, who's lost on as to who opposed? Thank you.
And I seconded.
Councillor Stokes, all in favour? Against? Abstentions? Abstention. Thank you, Councillor Orford. Thank you, everybody. If I can now move on to 7.3, which is application 0209-235, apologies, which is 50 King Street. And this is proposed replacement of conservatory roof, infill porch fenestration, replacement fenestration and repairs to dormers. Straightforward, isn't it? I'm going to propose second, all in favour? Thank you, voting. It's just not an attendance list for this one.
I've always
been on.
On the distribution list of paper.
Amy said. Okay, right, so moving on, let's go to census application 09279-278, item 7.4, House Elder Planning Commission, 10 Avon Road. Replace the garage door with a bay window, replace flat roof over garage porch with pitch roof and extend pitch roof to form canopy over front door. Councillor Orford.
I propose. No
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stokes, all in favour? Thank you. Next 7.5, application 09282. This is for 11 Thames Crescent, replacement large single-storey rear extension. New extension, isn't it? In place of the old extension.
No, except, sorry, no objection.
Thank you, you're proposing, yep.
Yeah.
No, second.
Councillor Oakley seconded, all in favour? Thank you kindly. Now to move on to item 8, this is planning decisions to note. That we'll just quickly whiz through them. So this one, the first one was 03366. And this was the Fortress, this was the one we discussed previously regarding turning the first floor office into a self-contained flat. A decision was prior approval not required. 8.2, which is application 07310, land to the rear of King Street. This was to change the facades from brickwork to rendering stone to match. Was approved, we supported. Pretty straightforward. Item 9, train services to review any response to open letter resolved 27th of August 2024. That's right.
Okay, thank you, yes. Well, thanks to the council for sending the official letter through to Great Western. Also, one was sent through from Melksham Without Parish Council to remind the train operators that although their services here are extremely slim and unreliable, these are actually substantial communities. We've had a couple of responses there, one official response from the Transport Community Rail Partnership, which explains an element of why the problems are there. And this is a community organisation, if you like, one tier above us, not from the rail operator. We haven't heard back, to my knowledge, unless something has come in recently from Great Western. And so be that there. I was, however, meeting with, we sent this to Mark Hopwood, and I met with his PA a couple of weeks ago on other matters. And the letter is there and has got their attention. And I have seen, though it's difficult on something that's so up and down, or like climate change, I suppose, this is the temperature going up and down. Is it getting better? I suspect it is. I suspect there's an element of this being noticed. Over the last few days, and slightly away from this, after the agenda was published, the Wiltshire Rail Strategy has been published by Network Rail. And that, in my view, is extremely good for the medium and long-term future for rail at Melkshire, which puts us into a much stronger position. And I would simply suggest that we perhaps let Great Western say we look forward to seeing your response to what you're going to do about this. And we are looking for what they're going to do about it, not an explanation of why they have done anything about it for years.
Thank you.
I could talk for hours, as you forementioned.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions anybody has for Councillor Ellis? We're noting pieces at the moment. Thank you. So item 10, which is LHFIG, this is for Bacchus Brooks, moving to suspend standing orders, if I may. I will propose. Can I have a seconded? Thank you. All in favour? Over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm still Mike Sankey, unitary member for Melksham East. LHFIG, you're all familiar with what LHFIG is and what they do. But as parts of that, there's every year there's funding set aside for what are called substantive schemes, which require more money than the LHFIG can actually provide. There's one in the Melksham community area so far. There's only the one that Councillor Stokes proposed a short while ago, which is the crossing of the road from Snowbury Lane to Eastern Way. It's where the footpaths cross the road, but the actual physical crossing is further up the road. So it's anyway. The one that I'm suggesting you might wish to put forward is the one for the crossing of Clackers Brook between Union Street and King George V playing fields. Members may be aware that the path or the footway currently goes along the bank of Clackers Brook and then crosses over a bridge. That the bank and the path is being undermined, so there's potential that's going to fail and the footpath will have to close. What I'm suggesting you may like to consider is that where the footpath reaches the bank and it turns off to the right, there may well be an option to put a new footbridge straight across the brook at that point. And then on the other side, there would have to be a section of footway made, which could just be Mendip dust or you know, what they call hogging, which is gravel as it's dug out of the ground, just to lay a formal surface. I would say that I think these schemes have to be put forward by February next year for them to go forward into that financial year. That actually means, I believe, that the last chance to push this forwards is the LHFIG meeting next week. Now, the area board meeting is on the 6th. The LHFIG meeting is on the 7th. So the intention is, I believe, to have a special area board meeting at some point shortly after that to ratify and agree the LHFIG proposals. But like I said, if you want it to go forward, there is a sense of urgency to do this. So as I said, just to recap, it's a fairly simple proposal. You may or may not wish to take it forward, but as I said, it's where the footway currently meets the bank of the brook and turns right, just to put a new bridge straight across. That'll probably be easier and I dare say cheaper to do than to reinforce the bank and build it up and so on and so forth to enable the existing bridge to be used. I think that's pretty much all I can say on it, really. It's just a case whether or not you guys want to take it forward.
So just to clarify, when you're saying turning right, you're talking about coming from Union Street into the park?
Yes, sorry. As you come from Union Street past the chapel,
Right.
reaches the bank, turns right. I forget how long that section is. It's probably 30 yards, something like that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
So before does anybody have any questions, Mike, on this before I reinstate standing orders?
Can I just check with councillor Sankey, that is a public right of way, I believe.
It is, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for that case? I'll reinstate standing orders. I'll propose.
Sorry,
Oh, so please,
so I happen to walk that,
well, your name, please.
Jason Reed.
Would you mind stepping up towards the
Yeah,
mic?
sorry. So I happen to walk that today. And what I would say is it's a much wider aperture where you're describing to cross. And the other thing that looks weird is you've got two tarmac paths that run to the existing bridge. So both will miss. I know you described Boggett as a pathway for the other side, but the flow of the King George V Park doesn't actually meet where you're putting the bridge across. And you've got two paths, one that runs around the dog park and one that comes from Waitrose. They're missing by substantial distance if you put a pathway and a bridge there.
Right, I will post reinstate standing orders. Seconder. Thank you. Interesting enough, that was one of my comments, was that in terms of, I completely get there are ways to do this cost effectively. However, with the flooding that's at that end of the park, there is a reason why we have tarmac paths there, because they don't get so affected by the huge amount of flooding we get, which is only going to get worse. And every year since I've lived here, that's just got deeper and deeper and deeper. So whilst I completely get the erosion in the bank, and that is a big issue, I'm not sure changing the layout of the paths in the park is the right answer. There is a nice flow that we have within our park and lots of green areas, and it's almost like we're going to put in another kind of cut through from what we already have. I mean, I'll open the floor to you guys, what you think. That's just my initial thoughts on it.
I'm sure there are experts that would come up with the right cost solution against the benefits that both keeping the existing and changing to the new would work out best one way or the other. I'm not an expert to, and I don't think we as a committee are good. So get the right people in to do that. And yes, it might cost them money, but you get the right solution rather than something that we might think's right and it might not be.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my thoughts and moments out here, is that pushing to rush into something which might not potentially be the right answer to this, I think is I get that there is an issue with the bank and that needs clearing, but we need to come to the right responses. So I've got councillor Ellis, then councillor Stokes, then councillor Ames.
I mean, looking at it here, we basically have, as I say, three options. We don't know that. There's reinstate where we are, there is move it to a new location, and there is actually the question which hasn't been asked, and possibly some of the folks in our audience might know the answer to this. How much is that footpath used? There are, I believe, 10 entrances to the park. Do we need all 10? Could we actually look at even closing that entrance through? How much is it used? It's got to be asked.
Thank you, councillor Stokes.
Natural Wildlife Trust, we're looking at we're restoring Clackers Brook area. Is there like any way that maybe we can ask them the questions of, you know, what would be the best way to go about this? See, I believe this is probably quite a time sensitive matter. We've not got long to get it in for an LHFIG meeting. So yeah, I think, you know, Councillor Cook is right. We need to ask someone that's professional. Wiltshire Wildlife Trust seems to be those sort of people.
Thank you. Councillor Ames.
Thank you. Your comments about the frequency of flooding are quite relevant because I'm being involved with a couple who live on the corner of Lowbourne, and they've got the brook going right across the back of their garden, and they were flooded early this year. That's the second time in the last few years, and it was nearly flooded again late this summer. But that brook needs a lot of attention, work doing to the structures in it that control the amount of water. And I'm living in hope that there will be some action on this in the not too far distant future. Maybe a construction of the bridge or the upholding of the embankment might be part of this particular scheme, because there are lots of houses along that brook or at risk of flooding. So something has got to happen, and you know, sooner rather than later. So I was just wondering if it would be worthwhile doing anything at all, to be honest. But you know, I think we need an expert. We need somebody. We need more than just.
Yeah. Can I make a proposal that I really do take on board what Councillor Stokes is saying about involving Wiltshire Wildlife Trust because of the work they're going to be doing further up Clackers Brook. I'm not saying you're wrong, Mike, in any way, because you're completely right about that bank, but I'm just concerned we could potentially put a sticking plaster on something which is only going to crop back up again later. It's not going to help the entire area, just fixing one little problem. I would rather, if we were going to do something, we do it correctly, get it right the first time, rather than rushing into making a decision that rather is consulted for next. Councillor Cook.
It's, as you say, it's the right decision to say, right, we should look at it as a whole, but the immediate problem is what's been raised, is that area. So it seems like the immediate problem that could be sorted by having an expert look at it and cost it and everything else. But in the same instance, we should be looking at the whole thing, say, right, that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, because it is only going to get worse, as you've both pointing out. It's going to be it's a long-term problem at the bottom end of that park, and just cleaning it out and doing it over the next 1, 2, 3 years, whatever. But it's got to be a long-term, complete project.
Can I, I would like to propose that we actually speak to likes of Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, maybe other experts in terms of water courses, in terms of actually where are we with the bank, what are the timescales, how is this something is this imminent, or is it something that's happening over time? Actually just get a proper report on the condition of the bank down there, and as Gary said, then have a plan of what needs doing now. And
just put some timescales up to sort of accommodate LHFIG, so to get things ready.
It's not going to go through this LHFIG.
No, and if it's not, that's fine. But it's just we've got
That's next week.
No, it isn't going to be next week.
So if we can do, but doing it properly rather than rushing to get on.
Yeah, I agree.
Do I have a second?
I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ames. All in favour? Thank you. Sorry, Mike. We don't want to.
No, I'm just coming here basically to offer you a way of getting some extra money and some extra funding to get a job done. It's, yeah, I'm noticing like my nose at the end of the day. I'm trying to
Thank you.
Give you some money, basically.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Just, sorry, Chair, just to interrupt, on the back of that, as Wiltshire Council for the area, I'll keep an eye on that and take it forward if needs be.
Thank
if it gets any worse.
Okay, so moving on to item 11, parish steward, I would just like to comment that I've seen so much of the parish steward around the town over the last kind of 6 weeks. It seems to be an awful lot of stuff that's been done. I know we have a lot of stuff we're not doing, but it does seem to have been a lot of work. Councillor Rhodes, which leaves?
Which leaves, yes. My usual, usual pass is for all the leaves, down past the old car park that doesn't get used much now, only the, where the library was, that bit down there, because it won't be long before we get some kind of a frost and all those leaves will, they're rotting and they get icy and people start falling over. And bearing in mind what's going to be replacing that area, going to be homes for hundreds of people, I think we really ought to be quite regular in cleaning that area up before there are some incidents. And they look tidy as well.
Thank you. Do we have any other pressing matters over and above? There is a list that Andrew has, which is our usual ones we bring up every time. And to be fair, they seem to be getting quite good at actually. Yeah.
I'm really sure that added.
And can you through your chair, do we know if that area down where we go down beside the shop, is that, what's happened about that?
Now, yeah, that's obviously funny enough. You just reminded me because I was going to say about it, because I noticed the other day walking through, but it's really, really narrow. Who is responsible for the bushes and cut through from the Battery Outlet shop to King Street car park?
I do not know, but if you can give me till tomorrow, we'll email you an answer.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we've done it before.
We have, but we didn't know.
Whether we should have done it.
Yeah. So it would be good to establish who it's meant to, and then need to suspend. This is the last time I'm going to suspend standing orders. I'll propose. Thank you. Yes.
Again, I walked through there today, it's all been cut.
That's it. Oh, I didn't walk through.
They've picked the debris up, it's all over the floor.
Don't expect to do a full drop.
Small things, at least. Right, I'll reinstate standing orders. Yeah, maybe that's around. Are there any other parish steward bits and pieces? Okay, brilliant. Now we'll go on to project update, which is item 12.
Okay, so I can give you some updates. So in terms of the Avon War Memorial, the works have now been completed. There are 3 orange barriers around that War Memorial. They will be removed, I'm told, by the asset manager before Remembrance Sunday. Town Centre CCTV, that has now been signed off as completed works. As I explained earlier, the explanation regarding the finances has received to the town clerk, and I'm sure that will be reported in due course. And I've asked the question regarding the policy. The clerk is currently looking at that, and that should be coming back to full council with some amendments. In terms of the Wiltshire Towns programme funding, the application for the £75,000 was submitted today. I will keep you informed of that, and I'd like to thank Miriam for her work. Once we know that, there's going to be 2 phases, as you're aware. The first phase will be just under £50,000 for this the financial year coming, and for the phase 1 of the work, and then phase 2 will be the following year of 45,000.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Any questions around those updates? Okay, in that case, Councillor Ellis?
It may be the wrong place for updates, Deputy Clerk, but one of the things that has been ongoing for a while, I'm slightly confused that you might be able to help me with, is the real-time passenger information in the bus stops, which I understood was with the CIL, but that is certainly town development. And my understanding was that it was going to be by the end of August.
Okay, so I can give you an update on that. The first time I was aware of that was the latter of last week.
I appreciate
I met the Melton without. We're in correspondence. She is now away on holiday. We are having a conversation on her return to then put that project into place. Because I'm aware Melton without have completed, we need to action our end as soon as possible.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. And can I just clarify, your 151 list will be 3 off.
Yay, fantastic. Brilliant, guys. Thank you very much.